Good morning, everyone. James Reeves with TFBTV, and I am glad I can finally share with you all that today Smith & Wesson is making the M&P 2.0 in 10mm. Now, I've known that they've been planning this for a while, and I've been very excited to finally see this come to fruition. As of today, Smith & Wesson will have two 10mm M&P options, but I'm hoping that they consider expanding this line because they did a pretty damn good job with this first run. But first, why even 10mm? Well, 10mm was spearheaded by firearms legend Jeff Cooper in the 1980s as a personal defense round superior to 9mm or 45 ACP. The caliber initially came into popularity as a solution to 9mm being considered underpowered as a result of the 1986 Miami FBI shootout, where two armed robbers killed or wounded 7 responding FBI agents who were primarily carrying 9mm handguns and 38 cal revolvers. 10mm was adopted in the aftermath, with the FBI selecting the Smith & Wesson 1076 as the handgun of choice moving forward for the agency. But as usual, women deliberately screwed everything up as female agents had a difficult time controlling the recoil of the 10mm. Well, so did manlets too. But 10mm was simply shortened, weakened, and the 40 S&W, or the 40 short and weak, was born. As with any good compromise, no one was happy. Well, except for Gaston Glock, who landed a massive deal with the FBI for Glock 22s and Glock 23s and 40. I've seen the original letter from the FBI purchasing the Glock 22 and 23, as my good buddy Gaston has it hanging in his U.S. office. As we know, the FBI changed its tune in the 2000s, switching back to 9mm, primarily because of the advent of Plus P 9mm in the mid-90s, along with reliable semi-autos that could handle additional power of Plus P and Plus P plus 9mm. As technology advanced, so did the performance of the 9mm. Back in the 80s, there were only a couple of 10mm platforms, including the Bren 10. The Bren 10 of Miami Vice fame was manufactured by Darnus and Dixon Enterprises, a company that lasted about as long as your community college enrollment, going out of business after 3 years. The Smith & Wesson 1076 was still around, and it's a pretty damn good gun, and the Colt Delta Elite gave 1911 owners and enthusiasts a modern caliber in an obsolete dogshit platform. The Glock 20 came around in 1991 as well. So 10mm was down, but not out. A little bit like Apple computers. It went dormant. It never went fully extinct, but no one really expected it to blow up the way that it has. But why is that? First, the 10mm formula never went away to begin with. 40 S&W is a little bit like the 38 to the 10mm 357. You're still using a 40 cal bullet and a 40 cal barrel. Ironically, 40 S&W's usurping the 10mm led to 40's short-lived but widespread success, and so the genetics of the 10mm never went away. They got passed on. So in essence, you can take some 40 components, some 45 components, get them together, give them some Cavassier, leave them in a dirty hotel room, come back a little while later, and you'll have a 10mm handgun, more or less. Essentially, that's what Smith & Wesson's done here. And because the 10mm uses the same case diameter as the 40, you get the same capacity as 40, albeit it has to be in a 45 ACP sized handgun frame, robust enough to absorb the 10. But instead of, say, 10 rounds, like you get in the full-size M&P 45, you get a whopping 15 rounds of 10mm in the M&P 10. To put that into perspective, Buffalo Bore makes a 180 grain 10mm round that will blaze at 1,350 feet per second, generating 728 foot-pounds of energy, while a 185 grain 45 ACP is just a little bit more than 1,100 feet per second and about 540 foot-pounds of energy. That's a massive power disparity. Not to mention, the 10mm only drops about half as much in terms of trajectory within 100 yards as 45 ACP. Better aerodynamics, better power, better capacity. By the numbers, if you're carrying an M&P 45 fully loaded with 11 rounds of 45 ACP, that's about 6,000 foot-pounds of total muzzle energy in your waistband. Replace that with the same gun in 10mm with 16 rounds of capacity, you have almost 12,000 foot-pounds of energy in that gun. That's about the same as one 50 cal round from a Barrett or a human baby fired from a Civil War era cannon. But anyways, the only babies that I want to talk about right now are these two new Smith & Wesson 10 mils. Essentially, Smith & Wesson is making a compact size 10 mil with a 4-inch barrel and a 15 round capacity. As you can see from this video, two-dimensionally, it is very close in size to the Glock 19. This is a very smart play by Smith & Wesson because the Glock 19 blueprint is of course one of the most popular of all time because it works well on the range or as a carry gun, like a jack of all trades. The second model is a 4.6 inch barrel, giving you an extra 0.6 of an inch over the 4-inch model. This should give you slightly improved ballistics and a longer sight radius, but I'm curious as to why Smith & Wesson went with two barrel lengths so close to each other. In any event, I elected to get the 4-inch model because, as Andrew pointed out in one of his ballistic testing videos for TFBTV that he did a few years ago, the performance of 10mm in a compact versus a full-size handgun is extremely close. Therefore, I think the 4-inch model is the play here. So, two-dimensionally, it's like a Glock 19 or a 9mm M&P compact, as you can see in this comparison, but when you factor in width, the M&P is going to be a little bit chunkier in 10 mil than in 9 mil. Although 40 S&W can be put in the same frame as 9 mil, and 10 mil and 40 have the same diameter, 10mm is just a more robust round, and it needs to have a 45 ACP size frame to work. The M&P 10mm is going to be pretty much exactly the same size and weight as the 45 ACP variant of the M&P. You saw the same thing with the Glock 20 and 29, both of which are 10mm that are the exact same size as the Glock 21 and 30, both of which are 45 ACP. Hell, the 10mm M&P even uses 45 ACP magazines, they just use a different follower. This means that the 10mm is going to be a couple ounces heavier and about 1/10 of an inch thicker than the 9mm version. While on paper, Smith & Wesson lists the width of the M&P 10 as 1.3 inches, that's most likely at its widest point because I took a measurement myself with my caliper at the point where the frame meets the slide, kind of like right above the trigger guard, and I got less than 1.2 inches. So for being a 10mm, the gun's thin enough to carry inside the waistband if you want to, although it's really on the upper limit of what I would consider comfortable for IWB. That said, you should have no issues carrying this gun if you want to, I don't know, step around with the wrath of God tucked into your pants. Go for it. Further to that point, Smith & Wesson, the M&P 45 holsters and accessories will work with a 10mm, so there's already plenty of options out there if you're looking for leather or kydex. Now, if you've kept up with my bear defense videos, you've probably seen that I carry a 10mm with hard cast ammo in brown bear country like Alaska, for example. You just can't get the same performance and capacity from a common auto loader, like forget about a Desert Eagle, right? A common auto loader like you can with 10mm. It's well suited to popular handgun platforms, so it just works. If Lindsay and I are hiking or camping in Alaska, my go-to for a lightweight grizzly defense gun has always been the Glock 29 SF. I've got it right here. It's compact, it's lightweight, it holds 10+1 rounds at 10mm. Underwood hardcast, like I said, is what I typically recommend because that was recommended to me for bear defense. Glock's been making the 10 mil since the early 90s, so obviously a comparison is in order. First, of course, the old school 29 SF does not have a means of mounting an optic, and nowadays it almost seems like more guns are coming standard with optics mounting than not, and I think that's a great thing. The new Smith & Wesson M&P 10 is going to come with optics mounting as standard, which is going to be universally welcomed by shooters out there. It uses the Smith & Wesson M&P Core Optics mounting system. The Core Optics mounting system is intriguing to me. You get a bag of plates that are just really thin plastic rectangles with holes in them that frankly feel a little on the janky side. I also prefer to mount my optic directly into the slide rather than using an adapter plate system, just because to me it's something that can break or can come loose or you can lose or whatever. So that said, the core system just feels wrong to me, but I can't articulate a basis as to why, other than the fact that it uses plates, and those plates are plastic. But on the other hand, it's really thin plastic. I'm talking thinner than a credit card. And when you cinch down your optic on the M&P 10, it does feel like it's really on there. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I am leery of plate mounting systems, but I don't really have any proof that the Smith Wesson core system isn't a solid mounting system. It's just something about plates and plastic that freaks me out a little bit or whatever. The M&P kind of splits the difference between the Glock 29, which is almost a subcompact 10+1, and the full-size Glock 20. In essence, it's almost like Smith & Wesson just moved into a segment of the market where it has no competition. It's kind of funny because, again, this traditional compact frame size is very popular, so it's a bit of a mystery as to why no one stepped into that 15+1 kind of Glock 19 size to begin with. As you can see, check out my scale. I got the Glock 29 SF and I put a Holosun 507 on the scale just to kind of make things even. And then I went and got the Smith & Wesson M&P 10 with the Holosun 507 mounted on it. You can see very close. You're talking just like an ounce or two in weight difference, which is crazy because you're getting an additional 5 rounds. Now, as far as shooting the M&P 10 goes, I was very, very impressed with it. There's something about that 15+1 frame where it just eats all of the recoil. Now, to be fair, the only 10mm ammo I could find to make this video was Federal 180 grain. So this is just like range ammo. It isn't hollow points, but it isn't like it's a soft shooting round either. But man, it was extremely mild to say the least in the M&P 10. Myself and the homies Christian and Mason at St. Bernard Indoor Shooting Center, they're both excellent pistol shooters. We all agreed that we've shot 40 cals with worse recoil than the M&P in 10. Really, I think we were all shocked at how mild of a shooter this gun was with full bore 10 mil. Well, range ammo, right? But speaking of 40, did you also know that most 10mm handguns will also shoot 40 S&W? It's a little bit like 38 and 357, as I said earlier. The only difference is the case length. I asked Smith & Wesson if I could shoot 40 through this gun, and they said absolutely not. But I did it anyways because I've got that I'm gonna die before 40 combo of curious and dumb. But I wasn't too worried about it because I've done it all the time with my 10mm Glocks. Just drop some 40 in there, it'll shoot just fine. We took turns alternating 40 and 10mm in the magazine. So I loaded one magazine with 11 rounds, 10, 40, 10, 40, 10, 40, so on. And we agreed that while 40 was definitely the lighter shooter, the difference was negligible. All right, what we're doing, even though Smith & Wesson told me not to, I've got a mixed magazine here, alternating 10 and 40. It's got 11 rounds, 6 rounds of 10mm. The first one's gonna be 10. The next one's gonna be 40. 10, 40, 10, 40, 10, 40. And maybe we'll see if there's any difference. 10. So, just ran 10, 40, 10, 40, 10, 40. Actually, not really much of a difference. I mean, you can definitely tell that the 40 is lighter, but I mean, it had to have been like 10 or 15%, like not that significant. I would just stick with 10. We did have a strange malfunction where one of the 40 rounds kind of fed straight up with the bullet poking out of the top of the slide like his name was 10 mil Punxsutawney Phil. Does that mean that we get 6 more weeks of 10mm? I don't know. Anyways, this was likely caused by the fact that there's a little bit of slop in the magazines if you're using the shorter 40 round instead of the full-size 10mm. With 10mm, which is what counts, the gun was absolutely flawless in terms of reliability. Accuracy was excellent, whether up close or with the target all the way out at St. Bernard Indoor Shooting Center. My first magazine at 7 yards, rapid fire, almost made one big hole. I did pull a couple of shots. However, speaking about that, clearly when I pull a shot, it's not my fault, it's the gun's fault. All kidding aside, the M&P 10mm has a brand new trigger. Just have a look at that wild dingus trigger safety, as my friend Tim from Military Arms Channel calls it. If you're keeping count, I believe this is the 5th Smith & Wesson M&P trigger. You had the original M&P trigger, the M&P Performance Shop trigger for the 1.0, the M&P 2.0 trigger, the M&P Shield Plus trigger, and now this new trigger from the 10mm. In my opinion, the Shield Plus trigger is the best of the bunch, even better than this new 10mm trigger. The 10mm trigger's great, don't get me wrong, but I did pull a couple of shots. because it's between 5.5 and 6 pounds versus the 4.5 or 5 pounds I think I got from the M&P Plus. And to be fair, Smith & Wesson really knocked the M&P Plus trigger out of the park. It's fantastic by any measure, but let's get back to the 10 mil trigger. You'd probably prefer the 5.5 or 6 pound trigger on the 10 mil because after all, this is a big centimeter pistol and perhaps you don't want a hair trigger on it. Very well then. However, I was a little bit disappointed with the trigger reset, and I think this is the only negative I have for this gun. It doesn't give you that tactile, audible reset that you're used to in most striker-fired pistols like the other M&Ps. Hard to tell when the trigger actually resets, and it was a little spongy. I don't know if it was just my copy, but it was okay. Like a reverse mullet, you know, like all party out in the front, but meh on the back with the reset. All in all, I would say that most shooters would probably prefer the M&P 10 trigger to your standard Glock trigger, but it isn't quite the slam dunk that the M&P Shield Plus trigger was, so I pulled a couple of shots. While I might prefer the standard Novak style night sights that Smith & Wesson has used on the M&P series in the past, it's actually really thoughtful of Smith & Wesson to package the M&P 10 with suppressor height sights. Not only are you going to be able to use your sights if you have a suppressor mounted on the M&P 10, but it will also allow you to co-witness your irons through an optic, which is presumably the main point. I could see these potentially getting snagged on, like, I don't know, the inside of a holster or a piece of clothing because these suppressor height sights are really damn tall. However, it's just a personal preference thing. If I'm going to be carrying this gun concealed and I've got a reliable optic on it, or even like an optic that already has built-in rear sights, I'm probably going to be okay with low-profile sights instead of the suppressor height sights. On the other hand, those of you who are going to use an optic that maybe doesn't have a built-in rear sight already, or if you're going to suppress this gun on a regular basis, you're probably going to love the suppressor height sights because they're usually hard to find and a little bit more expensive, so it's great that they come standard. In conclusion, if you're looking for a 10 mil handgun that you might actually carry, this is a fantastic option. Recoil was deceptively light with the M&P 10. Optics mounting is standard. The trigger's pretty good, although I'm not too wild about the reset. And this pistol would not be too difficult to carry, especially considering that this is a 10 mil, especially considering that there are already dozens of holsters available for it since it uses the same frame as the 45 ACP version of the M&P. Smith & Wesson did a great job with sizing this 4-inch model. You're looking at that popular compact frame size similar to the Glock 19 and giving you a great 15+1 capacity with a full grip that no doubt assists you with the recoil management I was talking about. Now, if you're not looking for a 10 mil for carry, or if you were previously disinclined to carry a 10 mil because ammo prices or harsh recoil, I would still recommend that maybe you try out the M&P if possible. As I've said multiple times in this video, recoil with 10 mil in this gun is manageable and you can always run 40 through it at the range if you want to get in more live fire trigger time without spending 10mm prices or enduring 10mm recoil, even though, again, it's not that bad. So am I going to stop carrying my 9mm EDC pistols in favor of the M&P 10? Probably not. However, with winter right around the corner, we're going to be wearing heavier clothes. It's going to be easier to conceal larger handguns. And if I'm going to step up from 9, no question, I'm going to step up to 10. And this one's a good one. Guys, thanks a ton for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. I can't believe that I get to do this because you guys are out there supporting us. I also couldn't do this without our supporters from Patreon and Subscribestar. We give away 4 guns a month to Patreon and Subscribestar supporters. Check out the rules there on the bottom for more details on that. But if you're at the $5 or the $10 level, you're automatically entered to win a free gun every month, one of 4 free guns every month. We also give away $100 gift cards to our sponsor, Blue Alpha. Thank you so much to Blue Alpha. Thank you to Top Gun Supply, your online shooting sports superstore, for supporting us by sponsoring the gun giveaway. And thank you again to you guys for watching. We really do appreciate it. Take care.